All right, everyone. This is take two because I forgot that I can't curse as much as I want to, just in case some eyes other than people in Guardian sees this. So, yeah, Scuba, welcome. We're doing a little fantasy football preview. It's August. It's football time again. Everyone's excited.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here and getting pumped for football, even if it's preseason and we got to watch these third stringers play. But I'm excited to see some football again for sure.
Yeah, excited. You're probably excited that Debo decided that he's actually going to play this year. Good on
Oh
him.
my God, that's amazing. I'm in such a better mood now. I wish we'd have done it 4 months ago.
Yeah, Debo would probably be like pick 199. But if you can't tell, you can see on the screen we got me and Scuba created a couple cheat sheets. We're going to do a couple fantasy football content before drafts happen. Some people have already drafted. I know dynasty drafts are happening now, but if you've drafted your actual fantasy league, like a PPR league, you're crazy because someone's going to get hurt in in preseason, and you're going to be mad. I,
Yeah, it's nuts. I one of the guys in my league wanted to draft this early, and I just like we all kind of pushed for later the better because
yeah,
these injuries are gonna happen.
exactly. And you don't want to be the guy that drafted Christian McCaffrey or David Johnson or Allen Robson in the first round 3 years in a row. That was me about 5 years ago. They all of them got hurt. But anyways, on the screen we got both our cheat sheets. If anybody has a better way they could do that, well, I'm sorry. I'm just not technical. Tech. I can't say that word for skip it. I'm just not that sound with computers. That's This is also the point where we had to cut the first video because I cursed a lot in that statement.
It's true. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, but oh well. But anyway, so first things first, number one overall pick we got. I think it's pretty unanimous in just about every fantasy league. If you have someone with half a brain that gets number one overall pick, it's Jonathan Taylor for me, and as you can see, it's Jonathan Taylor for Scuba as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a no-brainer pick. The year he had, and he might not quite have the same year, but he's almost a lock to be a top 3 or 4 running back. It's just his usage, and there's no real threat to his carries like other people. And as long as he holds up behind that offensive line, I think he'll be fine, and I think he'll have another great year.
Yeah, the only thing that can really probably hurt his fantasy status is just him getting injured because they released Marlon Mack. He's on the Texans now. I mean, Hines
Yep.
can pose a threat for some receiving, but that's about it. It's Taylor's team. He's
Yeah,
like the true worker horseback in the league now, and
yeah,
I think he's going to be going one or two in fantasy for years to come. But
yeah. I agree.
seconds where we get a little different. You picked Austin Eckler. Why you got Eckler second?
I, last year I was an idiot and I passed on him. I actually went with Aaron Jones right ahead of Eckler, and just because he is the durability issues and he never had a lot of carries, but I just regretted it the whole season because he's a guy that just gets all those targets. Like his targets are insane. And last year he held up and he's in the you could argue maybe the second best offense in the league, third best maybe. Like I mean, when you're getting 70 catches and over, almost 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, and I mean he's been averaging 1,500 yards a year. And that's just a solid back. That's the guy you want, and he's going to get the targets, he's going to get the yards, and now he's getting the touchdowns. So, I mean, I think I kind of trust him more than Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry keeps getting dinged up midway through the year, and some of the other guys you don't really know about. So, but yeah, I kind of like taking a risk on Austin Eckler there.
Yeah, I agree with most of you said that. But my number two pick, and if he's healthy, he arguably could go number one overall. But it's like the biggest risk in fantasy football now. I got Christian McCaffrey because if he
Yeah,
is healthy, he is the offense. He is everything he's going to get receptions. He's going to get every carry. He's just so explosive. It's just can he be healthy and can he be the Christian McCaffrey that was a league winner 2 or 3 years ago? and who's going to be the quarterback. I think if Baker's the quarterback, it bodes more well for his fantasy stock because Baker seems to play well when he has a good running back, like Chubb, Hunt. I guess he's never really had a bad running back, but I buy the Christian McCaffrey hype every year. This is going to be the year he comes back every year for me, and is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
So
I hope so, man. He's one that could take over and just dominate. I'm just so terrified of his injuries, like that's why I have him so low, but just the injuries. If he's on the field, he's still almost unstoppable, especially in a fantasy league.
yeah. So for number three, I went with Austin Eckler for pretty much every reason you said. I think he's just probably has the best situation. Just they can't stack the box against him. Herbert is just going to continue to grow. The offensive line's getting better. The weapons outside are, I'd say they're probably a top five receiving core, maybe even higher in the league. And the
Yeah,
defense got better, so they should theoretically be up in a lot of games. So it's going to even open up carries for him. So I just, as long as Eckler stays healthy, I think he's going to be a pretty solid top five, top three running back this year, easily.
I agree. I agree.
And
And I had number three. I had Cooper Cup. He obviously had an amazing year. He had over 190 targets, which is insane. He had like over 400 fantasy points. I think he outscored the next receiver by like over 100 points or something close like that. Like just an insane year. He's obviously not going to have that year again, but if you're looking in a PPR league, a guy that's going to get 160, 170 targets and a good offense with a good quarterback and a good team, I think that's a slam dunk right there. And I think he's the guy. He's the what you want in a fantasy receiver.
yeah, I think it's fairly obvious that I think Cup should be the first receiver off the board. I think everything you said about him. Number four, you got Derrick Henry. Not the pass catching machine that you would think in a PPR. Why you got Henry for?
Well, just he is when he's healthy, he's the guy. He's that workhorse. He's going to get a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. There's no threat to his carries. As you kind of saw the back half, when he did get hurt, those other guys, took carries, but they weren't dominant. But when you look at his first like 9 games, he was on pace for like 1,800 yards or something. He was on pace for similar to Jonathan Taylor's numbers. So take out the receiving part is a big hit, but he still had 10 touchdowns and 900 yards, and I think he only played in 10 games maybe last year. So I mean that's an insane season. He's still if he's healthy, just like McCaffrey, just like Dalvin Cook and all those guys. If he's healthy, I think he's still a top five running back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually gonna make a switch for mine on the fly. I'm in love with Najee Harris in number four, and I think Najee Harris might be the number one running back this year. He's in a good situation with Pittsburgh. Look, I think Trubisky he gets a lot of bad rep, but Trubisky has he ever had a losing season when he was a starting quarterback? Maybe one.
I think that last one in Chicago maybe,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure.
yeah. So like he's just not awful. Like he can definitely get the job done. And Najee Harris is like everything you want in a running back in fantasy football. He's going to get catches. He's an amazing receiving back. If anybody watched him in Alabama and something last year, and he's a force. That is a big dude, and I love everything about Najee Harris. I really think Najee Harris is. I have another running back that I think might top him. But I don't have him going in the first round. I'm going to save him for another episode we do. But I'm really fond of Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris he could easily be the Jonathan Taylor of last year for me.
I agree. That's absolutely. He's definitely going to be a workhorse. He's going to have a ton of touches, and they improve the offensive line. I mean, yeah, I agree with that, and that's a good spot for him.
Next, I have Dalvin Cook. I'm one of the guys that I think you have to get running backs. If I'm going to be in the top five of my leagues, I'm going to pick a running back. That's just the way I do it. I feel like I can get more value at receivers in round 4 or 5, and if I get a top five pick, I'm getting a running back, and I have Dalvin Cook. I like that Minnesota offense. I think they're going to be up in a lot of games. I think Minnesota improved their defense enough in the draft where they're going to be able to actually stop people this year. And if they're up, that's even more carries for Dalvin Cook. A little worried because they have Justin Jefferson, Herb Smith, Adam Thielen. You know, they have all the reason to throw the ball. Kirk Cousins is going to at least get 30 touchdowns, but I still think Dalvin can do enough if he's healthy. That's Dalvin Cook's biggest thing. If he stays healthy, he's just dominant. But he's also very injury prone, kind of like McCaffrey. And you got
Yeah,
Tay over
I agree
there.
with that. Yeah, man. I'm kind of the other side of that. Like I love running backs early, but I also want a sure thing. So if I'm gonna go, you know, top five pick, the guy I know week in week out is going to get me 10 to 18 points a game, like, and I think that's why these receivers that are just getting these insane target numbers are such good value because, Devontae Adams is going to get 100 something catches. He's probably going to have 13 to 1400 yards. And you look at what David Carr played with last year, or Derek Carr played with last year's receivers. Hunter Renfro is his main target, and now he's getting one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, I think that offense is going to take the next step too. So I think Devontae Adams is going to have a pretty big year as well.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. I'm a little bit lower on him this year, but yeah, I don't know if his chemistry with Carr is going to be there from college, and I think it might take a year, but I could definitely see that. Six, I think I went first on Dalvin, so yeah, you got Najee at six.
Yeah, I love Najee, and I think all the things you said with the offense, and they're going to be running the ball, they're going to be giving in the ball, offensive line. I mean, I think he's the guy. I think he definitely could finish in the top two or three in fantasy this year, and I probably should have him higher. And that, should put him up the list a little bit more. I just, I think it's going to be tough to stop him this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I have Cooper Cup, and for all the reasons you said, just his season last year is incredible. I don't see any reason other than maybe an injury where he's not going to put up the numbers he did last year, but he should be right around. I do like Allen Robinson on that team, and I think this is the by far the best quarterback that Allen Robinson's ever played with. And I think he could be
Yeah,
due to have a big year. But I don't think that takes away from Cup. Cup's still going to be the number one guy. They're going to scheme him up as Sean McVay is amazing at scheming Cooper Cup open. He's going to get so many targets in the PPR league. I think he's clearly wide receiver one for me.
I, I agree. Yeah, I agree completely.
But next, I have Justin Jefferson. I think he's the only receiver that could possibly contest Cup for wide receiver one. I just think this is the year that Justin Jefferson establishes himself as probably the best receiver in the league and the best receiver in the league for the next five, 5, 7 years. I love everything he does on the football field. His routes are crisp. He has amazing hands. He's now got great chemistry with Kirk Cousins, even though everyone hates Cousins, but you can't argue their chemistry. I just think I think this is the year that Justin Jefferson takes the throne away from Devontae. And I think this is one we agree on again. You got Jefferson at seven
Yeah.
too.
I think you're exactly right. I think the new offense, new coach, these offensive masterminds are going to find a way to get their best players the ball. And I think I got a dynasty league, and I'm looking at Justin Jefferson at two dynasty league because of everything you just said. I think he's the uncontested one in Minnesota. He's going to get the targets. I mean, almost unguardable when he's on, and I think it's just a great situation for him. And I think Kirk Cousins is better at, but I think he's going to have another good year this year, and hopefully Minnesota can make some field goals and make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Kirk is a fantasy like quarterback that you would love to have. Just he doesn't win the games you want him to win if you're a Vikings fan.
Right,
But
right.
but
That's
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the Vikings lost like 5 games by a field goal last year. They
Yeah,
missed four, and then one was at the buzzer that they lost. It's like they could have won the NFC, the NFC North there. Like, just lost the close ones. So
yeah,
I think Kirk gets a bad rap, but you're right. He's like big games. He just not there.
they're actually my pick to win the North this year. And you had his teammate at eight. You got Dalvin at eight.
Yeah, it's just the injuries. Like he's gonna miss. He's gonna miss 4 games every year, and is it gonna be the 4 games in your playoffs? Is it gonna be, like you don't know when it's gonna be, and if you draft Dalvin Cook, you better get Mattinson because he's gonna get dinged up. It's just, but he's fantastic when he's out there. I mean, you know, 2 years ago, Dalvin Cook won me a fantasy league because he's just that good. He'll go off any week, and he's bound to go for 30 to 40 points. Sometimes it's just he gets dinged up, and health isn't quite there. But I think he's just that good of a player.
Yeah, I agree with that. My eight is Derrick Henry, and while I do think Derrick Henry should be in the top 12 in the first round of any draft, I'm personally not going to take Derrick Henry this year. I think this has got to be the year where he starts to regress. Is a running back that has gotten that many touches, that many carries. And granted, he's a freaking nature. But I know they lost Roger Saffold. I don't think they improved that much on their offensive line after losing Saffold. Did they? Did they bring anybody in?
I think they drafted a guy and maybe signed a free. I'm not sure though.
Yeah,
I'd honestly have to look, but
but they lost AJ Brown. Their defense
yeah,
outperformed dramatically last year. I just don't see it happening again. They are probably in a weaker division where they luck out and play the Texans and the Jags 4 times. But
yeah,
I just I think this is the year that Derrick Henry starts falling back, and Taylor, Najee, Javante Williams, they start catching the field, starts catching up to Derrick Henry. And that's just my opinion. I could very well be wrong.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I could definitely see it.
Number nine, I got Jamar Chase. He had what the best rookie receiving year ever last year, and he's only going to get better. The only thing that can hold him back again is injuries. That's pretty much anybody in the first round. The only way a first round prospect should miss in the fantasy football draft is if they get hurt. And I think that's the
Yeah,
same for Jace. Him and Burrow have an unbelievable chemistry. He's the clear number one. I don't think a corner was able to cover him at all last year, and he should just put up phenomenal numbers again. And that Bengals team, offensively, should just be getting better. So that's why he's my number nine. And you have McCaffrey.
yeah. I mean, obviously, talent wise, he's way higher, but I just there's certain guys every year that I just will not draft. McCaffrey, Saquon were those guys last year, and I think McCaffrey's that guy again this year. I kind of like the risk on Saquon because he's dropped so far, but I couldn't imagine taking such a big risk at number two or number one with McCaffrey this year just because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like, you know, if he's healthy, obviously he's right there with Jonathan Taylor as best player you can have, but I just scares me, the injuries. It doesn't matter how good he is if he's not playing. So that's why he's that far low on my board.
Yeah, I got that. And right after him, you have Chase, who I just had. What do you think about Jamar Chase?
I love him. I mean, he's right there with Justin Jefferson. You could argue putting him higher than Jefferson or Adams. The only thing that scares me about Chase is, he had those monster games, but he also had a stretch where he only had like, I think his highest catch game was like 4 catches. Like he had like a stretch of like 4 or 5 games where he only had like 4 or 5 catches, like 50 yards, and that was it. So he didn't have quite the consistency of Justin Jefferson, but I mean that could also be because the Bengals offense is the way it is. I mean, you could pound the ball with Joe Mixon, you could throw to T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They have so many guys they can get the ball to. It kind of, sometimes it might take away from Jamar Chase, but he's still going to be a top 4 receiver. I think hands down. And I think by next year we're going to be talking about, is it Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase the best receiver in the NFL?
Yeah, I agree pretty heavily with that statement. I have Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb's one, like, I think you can argue he's the best running back in the league. The only thing that holds him back in fantasy is Kareem Hunt. It's just that his
Yeah,
backup is going to come in, and you got to play Kareem Hunt. He's just too talented. But again, that Browns team, that's his team, and they've shown that they're going to turn it when things get tough. They're going to turn around and hand the ball off to Nick Chubb, and I just think he's too talented. And that's just a homer pick. I like Nick Chubb. But
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's in that mix for me. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to decide once you get to these, running backs kind of late. But yeah, like Nick Chubb, if Kareem Hunt goes down, Nick Chubb's like right there with Derrick Henry and
yeah,
Alvin Cook and all those guys.
I think he's like a top 2 or 3 fantasy running back if Kareem Hunt goes
Yeah,
down. But that
yeah,
could might be even said for Kareem Hunt. Uh,
yeah.
11. I'm your average Travis Kelsey enjoyer. If it's the last 2 picks, I'll pick Travis Kelsey, and I think he's gonna see more probably scheme to stop him because Tyreek's not there. But I don't think anyone can actually stop Travis Kelsey, and he has such a good connection with Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that offense takes that far of a step down where like Kelsey's just seeing double and triple coverage. I mean, they did bring in Smith Schuster, Valdez Scantling, Sky Moore. I like Travis Kelsey, and I'll pick him in the bottom half of the first round. Then where you could swing up and either get a top receiver or like a DeAndre Swift or a Javante Williams. What's your first pick in the second round? So
Yeah,
I'm
I
picking.
agree. I love the Travis Kelsey late first round pick.
Yeah, and you got DeAndre Swift. What you think about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, DeAndre Swift is like you know uh, got a little soft spot in my heart for him because 2 years ago I took him as a rookie and he blew up. He did a great job for me the second half of the year and last year he was kind of trendy, but then like he started splitting time with Jamal Williams and it was weird because they both have like 8 catches. Like both running backs would have 8 catches a game, and it was just weird because they weren't like they were spreading the ball around, but both running backs you couldn't figure out who was going to have a big week. But I just think I think DeAndre Swift this year is like when he just takes off. Like I think that line is tremendous. They're going to have to run the ball, and they kind of found out what worked at the end of the year with Goff, and they were playing close games, and now they got some deep threats out there and some guys that can play, receiver this year, not just guys to throw out there. And, I think the Lions could I think DeAndre Swift could have a big year, because he gets catches, he catches the ball well, he's gonna run, and I don't think he's gonna have an issue. Hopefully he just stays healthy. I think that's gonna be the biggest thing with all these guys. But yeah, I like DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, and there's some crazy stat like the Lions have the most expensive offense in the NFL.
Something like that. Yeah, like
There's like 1 or 2, and I just find that's absolutely insane. It's mainly because Goff's idiotic contract, but which will be
yeah.
known soon. But you got Mixon in your last number 12 spot. How you feel about
Yeah,
him?
this was the hardest one. Like, 'cause, I mean, there's all those guys below him are just right there. Diggs, obviously, Lamb. I mean, he's the uncontested number one. Last year he had a good year, and he's was sharing with 3 other guys, and now he's like the number one guy. Dallas, they're going to throw the ball instead of running it. So, Kelsey, you make an argument for Josh Allen, Debo, Kamara, like all those guys. You can make an argument for. I just think Joe Mixon in. If you got a chance to get one of the best players and one of the best offenses in the league, I think you got to grab them, and then you can come around and you can double up on running backs or get a running back and a number one receiver, however you decide at the end of the first. But I think Joe Mixon's just going to have another great year.
Yeah, like you said that who was it you wouldn't draft? I think it was Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook. Someone that you wouldn't draft.
Yeah,
I won't draft Joe Mixon. It's not even because he gets hurt. It's because I've drafted him 3 times and he sucked 3 times in fantasy leagues for me. And the one year I didn't draft him, he decides to be good. I'm not drafting Joe Mixon. Don't care. That's just personal bias. Joe Mixon's not even going to be on my board. My last is DeAndre Swift, and I remember I watched a podcast last year. They said don't draft DeAndre Swift. He's a bust waiting to happen, and they could not have been more wrong. He really came alive at the end of the season. I think that Lions offense, even if with Goff, probably going to hold them back a little bit. That Lions offense is ready to take the next step. They got, like you said, that line is young, and they are improving. They got probably one of the best tight ends in the NFL, at least top 5 in Hawkinson. The receiving core is improving. Amon St. Brown proved that he can come in and fill a role at the end of the season. JMO, I don't know how his recovery is going. If he comes back, that's an elite speed deep threat that is going to make defenses have to back up and respect him. I think DeAndre Swift. And I love Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is one of my favorite players, but if you're putting Jamal Williams on the field and taking away touches from DeAndre Swift, that just doesn't seem like you want to win. Jamal's
Yeah,
good, but he just doesn't have the talent that Swift does.
I agree. And I think this year, I think the talent they're putting out there, I think they're going to be more competitive, hopefully. And I think they're just, I think the Lions are, especially with fantasy, like I think it's a good thing to have as a go-to guy. And then hopefully those other guys stay healthy to, like Hawkinson and the receivers to kind of help Swiss value on that. But
Yeah, so that's our top 12. I mean, I think they're pretty similar. The only difference I think we had is I have Devontae probably being the first pick off the board second round. You have him in the first round still. I can see that, and I think who else do you have? You have Joe Mixon. That doesn't count because I will not put him anywhere near it for me. And I have Kelsey and Chubb. So it's pretty similar.
yeah,
To
yeah.
to end it, I have one question I want to ask though. How far are you going to let Alvin Kamara drop before you would take him?
Say it again. You cut out.
Oh my bad. How far would you let Alvin Kamara drop before you take him?
And uh, I think is it official 6 games yet? Is that what it was?
I believe so.
I mean, I got him kind of bump him down. I'd probably take him over like Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones might be like that guy for me, where I'm not going to draft him this year. I drafted him last year, and it was like nothing, nothing, 30 points, nothing, nothing. Um, I mean, you know, if you can get him, in that late second, early third. I mean, I guess it's a good thing, especially if you already have a RB1. Like if you drafted, Najee or somebody early, and you feel good about sitting him for 6 games. Like that might be a good pick. It could be a good playoff team to make a push. When you got two stud running backs like that. But yeah, that's a risky one right there.
Yeah, see, I'm on the fence about it. I feel like if I have a top pick and I can get like an Najee and Eckler, even Jonathan Taylor, I'm drafting Kamara in the second round because
Yeah,
he's a top. I think he's the number two pick if he doesn't have suspension. I think he's right behind Jonathan Taylor just because his ability to catch the ball. He's going to get so many receptions. He's the I don't even know who the Saints number two running back is anymore.
yeah.
It's not
He's like,
Latavius, is it?
no, I don't think so. I don't know. Is it Mark Ingram again? Like, did he come back?
Yeah,
Um,
I have
I
no
don't.
clue. KJ
Yeah, I
will
mean he's
if he watches it,
yeah,
he'll
KJ. Oh
comment.
no. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, Kamara, he's like a healthier version of Christian McCaffrey. He's right there and fantasy wise and could be that valuable. Yeah, you're right. It'd be tempting for sure.
Yeah, and about your Aaron Jones thing, that was the downfall of the Packers franchise when they decided to pay Aaron Jones all that money and not just turn the keys over to AJ Dillon. I don't understand that at all, but I
And
digress.
we could go on and on about the downfall of the Packers franchise. We're just gonna have to start a new podcast here soon,
Yeah,
and
but
gonna run out of space.
I'm a Texans fan, so I don't care. Uh, but that's it. I think next like we can do another one at the end of this week and do like top five positions, players at each positions, or like round winners in each, like top round, mid round, sleeper, not round winners, league winners, but something like that. We'll think of something. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Scoops?
It was fun. Appreciate it. Appreciate doing it.
Yeah, it's a good time, two just really old ancient dinosaurs talking about football. It's a lot of fun. But
The good old days.
yeah, the good old days. Speaking of fantasy football, though, who am I drafting from your junior high team to lead the league?
You're gonna have to pass on those kids.
I hope you
Hard
don't.
pass on them.
I hope you
Yeah,
don't show
there are a
any of
lot of
them this.
sleepers.
Yeah, I hope you don't show any of them this. All right, that's all, folks.